EMP Weekly. Welcome back to EMP Weekly and welcome to episode 2. If you haven't seen episode 1, be sure to check out the link in the description below. My name is Mike, aka Solitaire, and over there, I think it's over there, hopefully it's to the left of me, is Shiv, our illustrious leader from Emprox, Fenrir. I'm going to call you Fenrir. Yeah, we're going to go with Fenrir, right? Yeah. Last week, we talked about eSports and the difficulties it faces. This week, we're going to take a deep dive into marketing and why it is crucial to the world of eSports.
Oh, thank you very much, Solitaire there. I'm not too sure about illustrious leader, but I'll take the leader aspect out of it. So I am the leader of Emprox, as we all know it. And this week, I guess it's a topic that I personally believe is the backbone of esports. And I think like trying to unravel it a little or bring it to light is going to help out a lot of people within the industry on its own. So just before we actually get into things, I did say something last week that I wanted to kind of correct myself on. Last week I mentioned that Emprox, or like esports organizations as a whole, are a marketing entity. Now that is incorrect in the sense that actually esports organizations are very much similar to sports organizations. They do use marketing and advertising as a form of kind of like medium to help them achieve their goal, but overall they are a sports organization. Cool. Just wanted to clear the air of that.
Okay, I agree on it. There's a real camaraderie within the team too. It's good to see how everyone gets along, just like a sports club. Well, except we don't have sausage sizzle fundraisers outside Bunnings, but get us to the city. Yeah, buy a sausage. Okay, but which is in a way of marketing. But without further ado, let's get right into the very first question of the night. Okay, so Fenrir, what is marketing to you? I mean, like, how do you define it?
Right. Well, so marketing to me obviously is how I can get my brand. So in this case, Emprox, out to the overall, into the overall public eyes. So pretty much it's a way of letting people know like who we are and what we do and how we are awesome at what we do, you know? So,
right.
Yeah.
I like that. So it's a way to show people how awesome you are. That's cool. Yeah. But so, yeah, in saying that, so why is marketing important to like esports overall? I mean, you know.
Yeah. So I guess like marketing on its own, like it's very important to pretty much every business out there, right? Marketing helps businesses get themselves much more known overall, and like it's a form of engaging with like a demographic, consumer group, or like your overall audience that you're trying to capture attention of. It also allows you to engage and market your brand and its values to like a pretty large crowd overall. For esports teams usually it allows them to kind of like draw in different revenue and finances. So they do this from like corporate businesses, investors, partners, and even sponsors to a degree, right? Because inherently you appeal to masses when you advertise or when you market in esports.
Right. Okay. So you said two words. You said demographics and masses. Like so, what demographics are we talking about within those masses? I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So I guess esports. It actually is a very young industry, as I would put it. Like we do have. I think we majorly advertise or market to the teen population, because most teenagers nowadays, they grow up with video games and whatnot, and it seems like esports has the opportunity to market directly to them. So teenagers are our prominent market group. So obviously the demographic is roughly around about 13 to 24 for 13 to 18 for teenagers, and usually they grow up to about 24, where most of the esports athletes are. So yeah, so obviously that's the main group.
Right.
But recently, demographics have extended to the whole of 13 to 35 years old, which is what Emprox now markets to as well. This is where we've also got business people come in, and people who actually enjoyed esports back when it wasn't really popular also come back in and say, hey, look, we're back into this gaming industry. We're excited about it. And yeah, so that's another aspect as well.
Right. It was like with demographics for me, like I've worked in radio, worked in television, I worked in.
I can tell.
Yeah. So I've worked in it, and the most often asked question that you get as, say, a writer for a show, right? So I've done that. Is who's your audience?
Yeah.
Right. And then, like, initially I used to say, okay, it's for 18 to 35-year-old males. And most people would say to me, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm going to put the forward question to, like, I'm going to answer how I used to answer, and then I'll ask the question of you again, because you partially answered it. Like, there's no wrong or right answer, but
certainly.
There's a filled out answer for yourself, is what I mean. So my filled out answer for myself is, when people ask me, what is your audience? I'd say, okay, so I would start with that in my head. I'd be like 18 to 35, male audience. But basically I had to break it down. And I would say, okay, well, it's a story about love. Really, it's for it's for the romantics.
Yeah.
The people who like to give roses or receive roses. Or there'd be another show to be like, okay, it's for the guys who go along wearing a T-shirt that has Arnold Schwarzenegger on it. Let's say it was for an action film.
Yeah.
It has Arnold Schwarzenegger on it, and they are ready to go and eat popcorn and watch something explosive. These guys are the people who, like, follow Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
That's my audience, right? I went that specific. So if you were to go in and have a look at your audience, who like, just like, try and give us one person that you would like to appeal to, like, that seems general at the same time, if you know what I mean.
Okay. That's an interesting question on its own, and I guess that gives me a perspective that obviously, being within the industry, you kind of like assume others know what it means. So I guess in this case would be I guess a high school student, probably someone who is in their almost final years of high school to early university. These guys, they enjoy, I guess, the what do you call it? They probably grew up in the environment where they played a lot of video games. Now this would be on console. This will be on their phones.
So they got gaming, like, everywhere.
Yeah, so they got the overall
computers.
Exposure. And all in all, I feel like they transitioned that into, like, computer gaming and then into esports. There may also have been people who watch a lot of YouTube, who watch a lot of Twitch as well, because Twitch has been popping off very recently. And they probably could have transitioned off that. So, like, a lot of Twitch viewers, a lot of YouTube viewers, and just, like, the overall high school kids.
Right. Okay. See, you see, you painted a better picture of it. Like, I've got this image of this. He's just getting into university, but he still likes his entertainment, and he's more than likely saved up for a GTX 1080 Ti. So he can play the high-end games, like, averagely, but he wants to get better, so he watches people who are in esports, specifically, I say Emprox, because we're going to get the best of the best. And, like, they'll be watching those guys. That's the person go, oh, I want to get better, or oh man, now I'm a fan. Holy crap, I better buy their t-shirts, like, so.
Merchandise and stuff like that. Yeah, because most of them do look up to these really great athletes, like these pro players who are at that level, and so that's what mostly drives, I guess, the overall audience, I should say.
yeah, the guys already just go, well, okay, I'll you know, here's $30 for a hat. Here's $50 for a shirt. Like
Yeah.
these are the people who are going to do it.
Yeah.
And so okay, so in saying all of that, right?
Hmm.
We've got our audience.
Yeah.
Um, how hard is it to market to these people in Australia and New Zealand? Like, what do you have to break through? What are your challenges?
Okay, so in Australia and New Zealand, I guess esports is at its adolescent stage, or maybe infant to adolescent stages, where it's fairly new. Um, Obviously, one of the contributing factors is infrastructure.
Right.
This would be your overall internet connectivity, how good your internet connections are, like are you able to watch a lot of YouTube videos?
Right.
Are you able to watch like videos on Facebook and whatnot? With the newer teens or like the teens of the current generation, a lot of it's via social media, and because of how engaging social media is at a domestic level and even at an international level, we don't face as many challenges as we used to.
Right.
Um, Obviously, within the industry on its own, there's competition. So there's obviously the competition factor, where it's like who supports who wants to be part of who, and
Right.
whatnot. Yeah. Um,
I do
so
like
yeah, so
that.
there are those factors that are there. Um, but the other aspect when it comes to esports is like the overall esports on its own. Currently within Oceania, there's only a couple of large esports organization. Emprox on its own is kind of a moderate. It's kind of in between. We're not too small, but we're not too large, so we're kind of like stuck in between. And we sort of still are overshadowed by a couple of the other brands that are really powerful that were here before us,
Right.
and they've established themselves really well. So yeah, competition is another factor when it comes to marketing within
Yeah.
Australia and New Zealand. Um,
Okay. So when you say competition, are you saying they're taking all the money, or are you saying that and it's hard to get a look in, or are you saying they need more competition because
okay, yeah.
yeah,
It's so in retrospect, currently I feel like it would be almost all of those factors or none at all.
right,
Yeah, so pretty much because they've established before us, they're more well structured than us. But at the same time, like we're in there, right? If we have more competition, it means that we're creating more friction for the scene, as it were.
right,
And that means like brands can now support more than so and so, because obviously within a certain sponsorship, say for example, if you're looking at let's say restaurants, right? Fast food restaurants. You've got things like McDonald's, you've got like Hungry Jack's, you've got like Wendy's fast food chains. You've got all these like Burger King and whatnot. So you've got like a whole heap of them.
yeah,
There's probably a lot more that I haven't named there. But
yeah,
usually, if a brand is going to sponsor just one of the, like, say for example, top organizations in Australia, and there is
right,
9 major fast food restaurants, the ninth one is not going to be able to get into the mix to market or like be in competition with the others, you know?
right, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
so obviously having a lot more brands establish and create that overall competitive nature of things would be a good thing for esports.
yeah,
Um,
okay. So if someone's sponsored by Burger King, you'd be like, okay, we're going to go talk to McDonald's and see
yeah,
what we can do about this.
pretty much, and KFC or whatnot. So
Yeah, yeah,
obviously
just like
there's that.
classic. Yeah,
Yeah.
and all in the same place. I love that.
Mm.
I love that. Because that happens normally in sports
Yeah.
marketing anyway, right? Your football teams and everything like that. They're all
Mm.
sponsored by different people which are in competition with each other.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And it's like it's the exact competition that drives the people and the brand behind it. One other thing that I forgot to mention was obviously the sheer numbers of people that are involved in esports. Obviously, I think because of our numbers in terms of the overall population, we're not able to produce the marketing numbers that someone in Europe would be able to produce, or someone in America would be able to produce. So we are very downscaled in that regard, and only like a small portion of people are involved in esports. So that's why it is very difficult to establish here in Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah. So that's what that says to me is that Oceania competition needs to get international. The people who are winning the tournaments here need to get overseas more often and start winning more often overseas.
Yeah.
So, because I don't know. I mean, to me, you know, I've got a YouTube channel and I go international, and I don't worry about being
limited to here, essentially.
Limited to Oceania. Yeah. So I can see how that works. That if your competition doesn't expand past here, and you have to build it strong here. So I guess that's what we're playing, that catch-up game on that, building it strong here before we can carry on overseas. Just in reference to last week, as we talked about that, that's an interesting little thing that I never really took into account, that it has to be localized first. That means localized sponsors.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the sponsors must be ready to have international exposure as well. Because if their market isn't internationally, then there's another problem that you also have as well. You
mentioned Bunnings earlier. Doesn't help us out if there's an international audience, because only really Australia and New Zealand are going to know.
Exactly. Like there are no Bunnings in, I believe, like America or Europe or whatnot. There probably is something else.
That's right. Yeah. And a sausage sizzle, I'm not even sure if you know what that's supposed to. It's basically it's a fundraising thing outside. They give you a free barbecue and you make money and send kids overseas. Exactly. But it's a hardware store. Bunnings could have been anything, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, true that. We probably should have mentioned that as well. I forgot to tell you specify what it was.
Exactly. But not that they're our sponsors, but
Yeah.
Go ahead, try it. Maybe we should do a sausage sizzle. But okay, so in all of that, we've got to have a target and of what an esports organization gets from. Once the sponsors are required, we've got that achievement point, that trophy. What do we get from them? What are we offering them at the same time? You know what I mean?
All right. So is this about sponsors? If we get on board sponsors, what are we offering them?
And what are you offering them, and what do we gain? I guess in general.
Yeah, I guess that's an overall fair question to ask. Obviously, with sponsorships are majorly financial inputs, and sometimes there can be product inputs from another brand into a different brand, where they think having their brand represented alongside a certain brand would pull in their overall audience towards their own brand to drive their own sales up. So obviously I think I've made that really confusing. Hold on, give me a second.
It's okay.
So obviously, say for example, we are the let's quickly name a team that I can remember. So I think it's the AFL team Geelong Cats or whatever. Or actually no, let's talk about the Melbourne I think Storms. I think I looked at them. They had KFC as a sponsor. It's the easiest sponsor I can talk about. All in all, they had. Okay, so oh my god, hello. So all in all, they sponsor Melbourne Storms. So KFC sponsors Melbourne Storms. And what happens is, whenever Melbourne Storms win, KFC's brand is associated with Melbourne Storm. So what happens is, people that are associating Melbourne Storms, they may go, okay, Melbourne Storm, what's associated with Melbourne Storms? KFC. So whenever Melbourne Storm wins, they go, okay, Victory Food. Victory Food is KFC. So it's kind of like an establishing like a loyalty and a connection with another brand associated with the brand that you're loyal to or you love. and so then it directs you towards another brand, which in this case would kind of use you as a like a source of customers, I should say, or like an audience to generate more customers for.
Right. Yeah. Because it's a crossover of brand awareness too, isn't it? So I mean, Melbourne Storm are huge, KFC are bigger. If at the end of the match, it's like, oh, so what are you doing after the match? I'm going to KFC. Yeah, everybody come along. Yeah, but, that's the sort of like, there's the branding on both sides. Yeah. So I mean, so what are like we get the benefits. And obviously,
usually it's revenue. Like with sponsorships, it's revenue.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't want to like go in. What are the general stats on that?
So obviously,
I don't want to go into details, but
no, that's understandable. So overall, like esports, I would say sponsorships fuel roughly around about like 60 to 70% of income for the organization. Obviously, the other 40 to 30% is based off of league earnings and other investments for the organization on its own, such as merchandising, and obviously like memberships and whatnot. So all in all, I would say sponsorships do play a very large hand when it comes to esports and whether or not it will survive on its own. I think currently with the top organizations that we have that are like the top 8s, they're sponsored by like really big brands. So in this case, let's talk about, I'd say like Direwolves. They're currently sponsored by LG. Let's look at Legacy Genesis, not Genesis, Legacy Esports. They're sponsored by Samsung. Now these are very powerful brands out there, and they're competitor brands, obviously. But at the same time, like this is where they generate most of their income. Right?
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So the income, the revenue, you're saying, okay, they're paying salaries. Let's break down the revenue just a little bit.
Yeah.
What does that pay for, the revenue?
So obviously within an organization, there's a little bit of structure. Obviously, you have your staff, you have your players, and the players have their support staff. You have different sectors of staff. So obviously, you have marketing staff. You have like your support staff for the teams. You have others who deal with other like HR aspect or whatnot. So it's pretty much set up like a proper business. When it comes to sponsorships, usually they help you to, I guess like run the overall cost of the business to a point, right? Because it is your revenue and it is your expenditure in that regard. So a single sponsorship would help you pay for player salaries usually. And then any other sponsorships you attain from that will also help you with your, your staff salaries, right?
Right.
But it's not always that you have to rely on the sponsorships. Usually, if you're going into business, you would have your own investor funds, your funds that you raise from your investors. And like when you establish the organization, it will have its own capital and whatnot. So obviously, so there's that element. So the main factor for sponsorship is that you want to make the business profitable. If you're using up your capital to fund an organization, eventually it's going to run out. So obviously that's one of the reasons why sponsorships.
You're reaching into your own pockets. Always a fool's game at the end of the day. Well, it's not a fool's game. It's just that there's only a certain limit that you can go to.
Yeah,
right? So
it will dry out soon.
Yeah, and the sooner you can not do that, that's the best, right?
Yeah, that is the perfect.
Yes, I like that, right? So, in regards to like all of this marketing talk and all the rest of it, what have you and Emprox been doing to get it all up and running? Like, what's been the focus? You done in social media? Have you done videos? What's the thing? You know?
So so that's a pretty valid question, and as well as like a kind of like a question that digs into what we're up to at the same time. Obviously, as you can see,
pull back the curtain a little bit.
A little bit. See what's behind it. All in all, I think Emprox, we're trying to get a little bit more content going. As you can see, EMP Weekly is part of us trying to get more content out there. Obviously, our social media is another factor where we display our player matches, upcoming events, results, and all the other forms of interaction that we do have going on social media. You obviously have a couple of streamers that have their own content. They stream and they have their own crowds that they obviously call it advertise to. So there is one aspect that we do in terms of marketing. The other things that we're up to in terms of trying to secure sponsorships and whatnot. Now, without giving too much away, we've sort of established like what needs to be done from here on out. We had a sit down and talk with a business student. I think prior last week, we were able to kind of like nail down, hey, look, these are the biggest issues that we are having in regards to like stabilizing ourselves. Let's work through it and let's stabilize ourselves in the best way possible. And so due to that, we're seeking professional aid now. So people who are actually professionals in their given professions, right? So we're talking to them and we're trying to make sure we don't have any loose ends. Everything is up to date. Everything is proper. So when we move forward, there are no issues that arise.
Right, professionals, business mentors, etc. Right, that's excellent. That's good. Okay, so let's get on to a little bit of what's been happening with Emprox on the esports scene in Oceania. What's been going on, man?
All right, so with that one, I'm pretty excited about the recent change that we've had. So obviously, if you haven't heard, Emprox recently picked up the Heroes of the Storm team. And this team competes in the Premier Division for, I think, Blizzard ANZ Heroes League. Nice. So obviously it's pretty cool for us. Like, we're expanding into a new scene that I believe is growing and has the potential to grow. Blizzard being a very powerful brand or organization or game creator, I should say, they do help their scenes quite a fair bit. So we were wondering if we could get behind all of this. And so, part of the reason why we expanded into the Heroes of the Storm team. Obviously, the players themselves, they're pretty eager. They're pretty excited about the new arrangement that we have going.
That's good.
Yeah, and I'm also kind of like interested to see how well they do in the upcoming weeks as well.
Nice. It's going to be good. Yeah, I can't wait to see the progress on that. And you're right, Blizzard, they invest money in esports. There's a reason why their games are going in, and now they've invested time and money into their titles. Overwatch, 2 years ago, when it first came out, wasn't good enough to be esports rated. But now you can't move left, right, or center without having that game on an esports tournament. It's everywhere. You just can't. The competitive scene built up pretty quickly, but they poured time into it. So I can't wait to see what the Heroes of the Storm team can do. It's going to be awesome. We got any other news coming up for Emprox?
We're trying to cut a couple of major deals, I should say, but obviously I can't give you any more than that.
Very, very quiet. Hunting sponsorships.
Yeah, obviously sponsorships is at the top of the table. We're just trying to kind of like work through and see what we can get. Obviously it is a very tedious task. At the same time, you need to have the determination and dedication to go through this. Emprox is a brand that I really love and I want to see it grow. So obviously I'm not going to be quitting anytime soon. So
that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
It's going to be cool. I reckon if things could work out the way I'm planning, or like the business deals that I'm working on, it's going to be epic in terms of proportions for this brand.
I got goosebumps already thinking about it. I can't wait to roll on up in an Emprox jersey into these tournaments and go, right, okay, I'm behind these boys. Let's go. Let's make some content with them. Let's do what we got to do.
Speaking of jerseys, actually, we did get our jerseys designed as well. So There's
Yes. So they'll be coming up for sale. Nice
Yeah.
segue, by the way.
that. Pretty much.
Yeah, so they'll be coming up for sale. That's great. I can't wait to have Solitaire on the back. So yeah, it'll be cool. I know I'll probably be wearing that and have to buy another one because I'll have to have one in the wash. But yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there.
Yep.
It's been
We'll do it.
fantastic. As we said earlier on, this is the second episode of EMP Weekly. EMP Weekly! And there is the first episode in the description below.
Comment them down the bottom of this video or any of the social media that we post them on. And yeah, we'll probably give you a shout out as well in the next video.
Speaking of social media, don't forget to follow us at EmproxGG, EmproXGG on Twitter, because we can probably run a poll there or something on the subject.
So.
But yeah, so anyways, guys, thank you very much for coming along.
Thank you.
Thank you from me, Solitaire. Thank you from Fenrir, I guess he just said it. We're outies.
Bye-bye.